So in today's lesson we're going to look at one of the jazz guitar greats, Charlie Christian, and his treatment of minor chords, and how his approach can easily be adopted by yourself to give yourself a way of playing over minor chords. This is quite a nice sort of simple approach. It doesn't involve any scales, it's just all about chord tones and interesting rhythms, and we're going to look at some examples from his solos of how he did this. But to start off with, I need you to get used to two shapes. We're going to use these two F minor triads. We're going to use down here, so root D, F, A flat C, root 3rd, 5th, and then root G, same notes, starting up here. So as per those diagrams, so root D and root G. It's commonly felt that Charlie Christian used shapes like this to play. I'm not sure what he was thinking, but it's obvious from listening, studying a lot of his playing, that these kind of things keep coming up. But I think it's important to learn how he used them as well, and musically what he did, rhythmically what he did, which we'll get onto. But first off, you want to understand that these triads are, so if an F minor chord is happening, we're playing over F minor, those triads are central to outlining them, but we can add interest by adding in other notes. We're not going to use scales, we're just going to use chord tones. So we're going to add in first the 6th and the 9th. So we're going to modify the two shapes we've got, and the first one's going to become like this, and I'll put it on the screen. So we're going to get the 6th as an open string, D, then our root comes back in, then our 9th, G, open string, 3rd, 5th, 6th, fret 3 on the B string, which is a D, root again, 9th. You can already hear there's some nice tones there. So that's our first way, just adding in those notes there. We can do the same with our triad up here on the G string. So this can become, and then we've got the root here, but beneath it we're going to grab the 6th, so fret 7. Then we're going to grab the 9th from the B string before the minor 3rd. And then we go to the 5th, and then the 6th. So I'm going to put an F minor 6 on my looper. Let's see what that sounds like over the top of that. So let's go up here first. So just playing, that's what it sounds like over it, without any phrasing. And then let's give the triad plus one of the notes. So F triad plus 9 plus 6. So ninth. Start on the 9th. And he liked being on the and. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So there, F, A flat, C are our important notes, but the 9th and the 6th, they just add interest in colour. Same down here, so let's just play it in order. Sorry. You need to know the 6th, root, 9th, 3rd, 5th, 6th, root, 9th. So that's F triad, and then 9, 6, so like. So those little ideas there, they're very simple, just a triad. So that's C, C, A flat, F, D, F. With the right rhythms and things, which we'll come on to, things can really start to sound like Charlie. And that is not obviously just the notes he used, and it wasn't just the shapes that he used and things like that. Who knows if he actually thought in shapes, but they're very prominent in his songs and solos. So let's add in a bit more, another layer. Now, I'll put this on the screen, this is a bit more complex. With both shapes, we're now going to add in the 7th and the 4th and the flat 5. So that, on the first shape, gives us the following thing. So and we can do the same in our shape higher up the guitar, so starting on the 6th. And again, we've got a little bit more going on now. so we can add a little bit more interest. Let's get the chord going again and I'll play about with those. Get the kind of idea, and it might be hard for you maybe to create exactly the sort of things I'm just doing there. That's, you know, I'm able to do things like that because I've studied his music a lot and listened to a lot of his solos and played it a lot. So if you really like this stuff, that's what I suggest you do, because you will absorb some sort of ideas from his phrasing, and I will cover that in a future lesson, his approach to sort of soloing as well. But today is just all about minor chords. So there's two areas and two patterns, if you like, where you could explore the possibilities of the triad first plus the sixth and the ninth over minor chords. You know, very simple things like just like going like that, so triad then the ninth, or triad then sixth. I mean, that's two phrases which respond really nicely to each other. You can play it in all sorts of different ways. He liked to quite often stop his you know, phrase in the tracks like that. Or sometimes he'd leave stuff ringing, but interesting approach to phrasing, really incredible. I think he picked so much up from Lester Young, saxophonist. But yeah, let's move on to looking at some of his solos and seeing how some of these ideas are prominent within them. The reason I started in F minor earlier is because these examples I've got are in F minor. So the first one is the opening to his solo in Till Tom Special. And what we've got here, I'll just play this in time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we've got here, we've got this opening, starting on a C, landing on the ninth to finish off. So that's sort of his target note, I think, with that little eighth note rest. Interesting also, the solo starts on the and of 4, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and. So it's starting on the and then we've got that and, that eighth note rest in the in between the there. So we've got there that C, we're starting on fret 1. It's the fifth, then we've got the root, then the ninth, third, ninth. But the ninth really is the standout note. And then that little passage there is root, ninth, root, fifth, third, root. So really outlining the F minor chord there at that point. And at the end we've got a typical thing of him to close off a phrase with a dotted quarter note going to a quaver, which I think gives that little bit more attention to the note at the end, which is a minor third. Which is pretty cool. So there's an example where Charlie is using the ninth as a sort of character note in there, but the shape there, that F triad down there, the first one we looked at, is very heavily present in that shape. Our next one is the opening to his solo 6 appeal, which goes 1, 2, 3. You notice the accent on the last note. Again, he liked to often do that and put an accent on the note to really make it stand out. So we're starting here, we're sliding into the sixth, then the ninth, then we've got root, fifth, third, root, finishing on that third with that accent. So yeah, that dotted quarter note or crotchet to the quaver, so they're going 3, 4, and do that with other notes as well within the triad, and that's a nice sort of Charlie sound. You know, we could vary that, go to the 6th at the end instead of the 3rd. You know, so play about with these ideas. But that's a good example where he's got the 6 and the 9 to start off with, some interesting notes, plus the triad and that little accent at the end. And getting into the notes coming in on the and, like that last note as well. And the next one I'd like to look at is, again, another example in the same song, so 6 appealed, and this is the close to his solo. So it goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. So a bit denser in terms of what's going on, more happening here. So we're basically going to that second triad shape I showed you with the root on the G string. We're starting though, starting on F of fret 13, so sliding down to the 6th, then the 5th, so 3rd, root 7, sorry that's the 6th, that's the 6th, that D note, then to the 5th. Sounds good. So he's going then, he's working his way back up. So that's just the first bar, so root 6, 5, 3rd, root 6, 5. Then he goes back up a triad, which is F, A flat, C. There's the D. And then the triplet is a triad of 5, 6, 5. 5th, 6th. So how many times, if you listen to his stuff, how many times have you heard things like that? You can use that, you know, go to another note up, go to the 9th, 3rd. You know, lots you could do with that. And then finishing off, so 3rd, root 6, finishing on 6. What a, you know, character note to finish on. Again, there's a nice accent on there, make that 6 at the end strong. Yeah, it sounds really strong at the end. So that was just 3 examples there of those 2 shapes in action. You know, the first 2 examples used the shape down here, root D. The third example used the root G example, so triad. So where could you take this? Well, as I said, listen to his playing and listen to how these ideas are prominent. But also, you know, think triad plus 7th, triad plus 6th, triad plus 9th. It's easier than a scale, and remembering that the triad is so strong sounding, and then adding other things in it can really help with phrasing. Like if you go root 3rd, 5th, 6th, then you go root 3rd, 5th, 9th, you're going to create strong call and response style line. He played heavily with rhythmic ideas, as we could see in some of those examples where he comes in on the and, various rhythms and then accents and things like that, the way he'd finish off notes for effect. So, you know, adding in, you know, if you just play the notes, you won't get the feel. If you just go, you know, he was, I wonder how much he picked just down as well, but if I went do 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 do, you know, it could sound too smooth. Whereas if I go, feels like he's you know, he's doing the thing where he's muting the strings, you know, after he's played the note. Release the pressure from the fretboard but not string, and it will kill it quickly. A bit more force on the round. That's triad 9th, 6th. Think about where you place notes. If I take this phrase, which is root 3rd, 5th, 6th, 9, 6. So I could go 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4. Closing it off like that rather than leaving it ringing. Which you could do as well. Just thinking it's a bit more stylistic that way. What if I started that on the and of 1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. You know, 2, 3, 4, and. You know, coming on the and of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, those sort of things. Think about where you place things. If you're not ready, that's something you want to be thinking about anyway. You know, do you come in on, you know, if you're always coming on beat 1, it obviously gets a bit boring. But also, I like that rhythm he does, really simple, where he does dotted quarter note or crotchet to an eighth note, like 1, so like 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 1, 2, and. Really good for closing off ideas. So like this, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, put the last note a bit later. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Then it's that slightly funky, thing that really gives the swing to these pieces that he was playing on with Benny Goodman. So things you could do, you could try starting phrases on the 6th or the 9th, like starting on the 9th, starting on the 6th. Obviously trying both, and so trying different places to play it rhythmically as well. So takeaways from this for you should be the idea that you could take these two places on the guitar and treat them as go-to ideas for minor chords. So rather than thinking of scales and lots of other things and licks and things like that, you're thinking of a possible pool of notes that's not that humongous, and generating ideas with it based on chord tones and really trying to fit in with the chord, but also doing interesting things rhythmically, as we've just discussed with it, the accents, the finishing on the 9th or the 6th, or starting on those notes, or just including them, for interest really. If someone's got an F minor chord and you just play that over it, it's kind of like, there must be more. What else could there be? And this is some sort of extension of that that's not too difficult. These shapes are all movable, so if you take the shape we did down here just with the 6th and the 9th, we could do that here. So we could go up there, so that's for B flat minor. So you need to learn to sort of move them around. Ideally you want to know what notes you're playing, so where I'm saying 6th and 9th for F, it's the 6th is D, the 9th is G, but for B flat that's obviously changed, where 9th is the C and then G is the 6th. So as much as possible know the chord tones that you're targeting as well. It should go without saying, but when you're trying to do stuff like create ideas with things like this, we don't want it just to be an exercise in I know that works, I know this works. You really want to hear things and those sort of things. Would I be using this sort of thing? I would be trying to think of melodies in my head and find them on the fretboard. So I'm thinking of a melody, if you can sing and play at the same time, you're doing things well. My singing sometimes lets me down in that respect, but Charlie's an incredibly melodic guitar player, and I think it's incredible that the time he was around, what other guitar players was he listening to? We know that he was friends with Tbone Walker, and that they used to have, I think they used to busk together on the street, and Tbone Walker has a very similar approach to lead guitar. He has like you'd almost call that Charlie's scale over minor chords, if you like. Obviously it could be theorised in terms of scales and things, but like Tbone Walker, for instance, he had kind of almost like some hybrid scale, which was a mixture of mixed Lydian, minor pentatonic, and the blues scale, like something like this. So I'm not sure if he knew what he was doing then in terms of that, but it doesn't matter that he didn't. But I think they both obviously influenced each other, and you can hear that in both of their playing, I think. Today's just been about minor chords, and in future I will do 2 more videos on how Charlie treated chord types, and I'll do one on the dominant chord and then on the major chord, and also I'll do one more video on his approach to soloing and how he constructed solos, because I think that's one of the great things that he did leave with his legacy. Not only incredible music, but also I think his solos built and they told a story. They developed. His phrasing was so musical and lyrical, and I think we can really learn that from him if we study his music. Listen to Swing to Bop, or Topsy as it's sometimes known, the recording from Minton's Jazz Club in New York, and you hear him play over something like 9 choruses, each one developing on the next, and ideas that he's played earlier developing further down the line, and it's just like building and building and building. You imagine if someone said to you, right, play 9 choruses over that, you'd be like, oh god, by the 3rd you might be like, right, can someone else have a go now, because I'm sort of running dry now. But he's just sort of limitless ideas and phrasing, of real interest, developing rhythm, and I think his use of repetition and things like that was so prominent, and such an easy thing, which is often neglected by us and missed out when we just keep on moving to new ideas, when simply just sort of repeating an idea and slightly varying it can have more impact. So I'll delve quite deeply into the music of Charlie, and if there's any other things or songs or solos by him you'd like me to take a closer look at, then leave me a comment below. But as ever, any questions or comments about anything I've covered today, leave them below. If you're new here, my name's Andy, jazz guitar lessons every Wednesday and Saturday, and please consider subscribing, joining me for future lessons. See you next time.